Here is a quite good quality wooden table. I like the way the bottom of it looks, but I want to give a different look to the top of it, as it is quite worn out. I am starting with the black paint using a dabbing technique. As you see here, I pick quite a bit of paint, but then I am dabbing and dabbing until the paint spread. This technique creates an uneven texture, but we do not want the paint to be too thick, as it will peel off. Here are 2 coats of a base paint, and it is well dry. For my main design, I have chosen an old white, a dark egg blue, an Athenian black, and an Honfleur chalk paint by Sloan. I also wanted to use a cocoa, but decided against it. On the bottom of the tin, I have the leftovers of the old white chalk paint, and it will do perfectly for what I am trying to achieve. I want to make it even thicker by adding some of the sawdust and stirring it well. Applying a thin coat of it, brushing unevenly, and spraying with water to help spreading it. Covering the whole surface with this thin, uneven coat of an old white chalk paint. I let it completely dry, and with the metal spatula, taking some parts of the paint off. As you can see, the thicker parts where the sawdust was are coming out, revealing the paint underneath. Then I am helping with the sandpaper to smooth the surface, getting rid of all the lumps of the white paint. I could take more of the white paint off, but it is also the base coat, and in the end will be seen just the traces of it. For my next step, I will be using a large spatula for applying the paint and a plastic knife to spread the paint on the spatula. First is the Athenian black paint. It is a bit runny as I added water to it earlier, and it could be a bit thicker. I am adding some of the paint to the spatula and spreading it with a plastic knife. Then, keeping the spatula tight to the surface, I am spreading the paint across the surface of the table. I am trying to create rusty patina, earthy look. And that is why I have chosen the chalk paint colors I am using here. They call it Squeegee Technique in art. They normally use it on canvases to create an abstract art, but I thought it will help me here to blend more naturally the colors I am using. The process is repeated on and on. By watching, you can learn how to do it. Next is a Honfleur chalk paint. It is not diluted with water and thicker, so easy to spread. Once the spatula is dry, I am adding more paint to it, and I am adding a coat of brown on the black without letting it dry. The only rule here is not to cover completely the layers underneath. Remember that chalk paint is opaque and each layer has to be seen through. As I am trying to achieve the old rusty look, I am adding the dark egg blue chalk paint, which has this patina tone to it. I am using the same technique without letting dry the other layers. It creates quite a psychedelic look. I am applying different pressure on the spatula, and it creates lovely patterns. You can choose other colors or add more colors to the ones I am using to have more vibrant look. To finish the look I am after, I am using a newspaper. It will give another dimension to the paint and bring it all together. I am gently spreading the cramped newspaper and taking it off, picking up the excesses of the paint. Very little water is getting the paint back to life. When it is done and well dry, I have divided the top to squares to have an illusion of tiles. With the sponge, I am gently pressing the paint into the gaps between the two pieces of a sticky tape. I put very little paint to the sponge. It should be almost dry, keeping the lines nice and tidy. Then, with a spatula with rough edges, I am creating the effect of roughness to the tiles. sanding ever so slightly to blend them in. The final step is the water-based varnish. I will apply about 3 coats of it, as the tabletop needs a good protection. Normally, I apply a coat of varnish, let it well dry, sand it ever so slightly, and then apply another coat. You can also finish it with the wax, if you do not want the surface to be shiny, and add another layer of protection. And here it is. It is really fun and easy technique, which creates amazing look. I think it matches well the bottom of the table. Thank you for stopping by, and I see you again with my new project.